Hey friends, Jill here. Welcome back to the farm. It has been a dirty morning for me. I've literally had to change about 4 times. As you can see, dirty hands here. I have finally cleaned out this massive bed behind me that had all of our okra. Now, what I did wrong this year was I laid down landscape fabric and I burned holes in it because I thought that I was originally going to put flowers here, and then I realized that I didn't have a space for okra, and I knew I needed to plant okra for Nathan. And so what I did is I just went in and I filled this bed that I had already prepared for flowers with okra. And the bad thing about that is here in Arkansas I grow okra trees, as I like to joke, and so the stalks on these things, I mean, no lie you guys, they're massive. So you can imagine a stalk this big, the root system that's there. And I mean, these okras, well, if you've watched any of our videos, you know, I mean, they were just like massive. So unfortunately, to get the okra out of the bed, it was quite an undertaking. I had to take massive like pruning shears, like head shears, I guess, and cut it all down. I had to end up ripping all of the landscape fabric off. It literally took me hours. One, it took me forever, but I knew it needed to be done because I really wanted this bed for garlic, onions, shallots, and leeks. So you guys know that the raised bed garden is just my little playground moving forward into the spring and the summer, and I'm super excited. So last year I planted garlic out by the sunflower field, and while that does great for sunflowers, it really wasn't excellent soil for garlic, and so not a ton of them produced. Now I still had garlic from the year before, so I was okay, but after this winter's up, I will have ran out of all of my garlic that I have stored. And so garlic really likes well-drained soil, so I knew I wanted to put it in a raised bed because it was just going to have better soil and it was going to produce better quality garlic. And so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to plant garlic. The really cool thing about garlic is that it can be one of those things that you have an oh snap moment and you forget to plant it. More than likely you still have enough time to plant it. So last year I planted in January, which was very, very late. It still produced. This year, you know, we're in the 1st of November and I'm planting, which for elephant garlic, which is what I'm going to be planting today, I'll talk to you about. You actually want to plant that about 2 weeks before your estimated first frost. Now we already had a light frost here in Arkansas. I'm in zone 7B, but our real first frost is November 14th. So I'm actually right on time. So you sow it out in the middle of fall, depending on where you are. Even some zones you can grow it, in January, it's totally fine. Then you harvest it in the summer. And so for me, it's one of those, you put it in the ground, you mulch it well, and you totally forget about it, which I love. So let's plant some garlic today. First, I'm going to finish eating my snack because it's lunchtime and I've literally had cucumbers and blackberries. I bought my elephant garlic from House Tools. They still have garlic, so I'm planting elephant garlic, and then we sold seed garlic from our friend Luke, who has a farm up in Missouri, and mine's supposed to be coming in this week actually, so I'll plant that as well. And it's an Italian red and a white variety. And honestly, I've grown elephant garlic several years in a row. And I have grown the music and the chestnut and all that fun stuff. So the elephant garlic is massive. I mean, you guys can see here, these cloves are insane. And I find that I really, really like to cook with this. The cloves on them, so you'll separate them. I mean, this is insane, you guys. These are just, look at that clove. The thing is massive. So these are the cloves, and then this is the whole head that you would pull up. So insane. All right, so unlike a standard garlic, which is part of the allium family, the elephant garlic isn't. It's technically, which this is really kind of confusing because in that allium family there's like garlic, onions, shallots, leeks, like they all fall into that category. And elephant garlic, although it's not a true garlic, falls into like that leek, which is also part of that allium family. So I know it's like really kind of confusing. So to my understanding, the elephant garlic, it's obviously not a true garlic. It's going to be a lot milder. It's producing these super, super large bulbs. The flavor's going to be a bit different. People say that it tastes different than garlic. You guys, it smells like garlic. It cooks just like a garlic. Like, I can't notice any like massive difference in growing this, except that they're just massive and it's so worth growing it. But technically, they're not a part of that allium garlic family. They're going to be a part of that leek family, but the leek family is also an allium. So just some things to note. Not sure that it really matters. You find the variety that you want. The main difference with this, like, you're still like planting it the same time of year. You're still going to harvest it when the leaves turn brown. It's still going to produce these beautiful garlic scapes that you can cook with. You can do lots of other things with. Really the biggest difference if you're planting elephant garlic versus just your standard hardneck, softneck varieties is that your planting space and your depth is going to be a bit different, because obviously these cloves are massive. So let's come down here where it's a bit shadier. The sun's starting to move on me a little bit, and I will talk to you guys about planting depths. All right, so the tools that you will need, either your hands will do. A dibbler works really well. I actually couldn't find mine, imagine that, but I've got my Hori Hori, which is great because it actually has like measurements here, so it'll be just fine. I'm gonna plant mine around 8 to 10 inches apart because I have a lot of things I'm wanting to pack in here. We are growing a lot of garlic this year. I'm growing a lot of onions, a lot of shallots, a lot of leeks, and I need it all to fit in this 48-foot long bed. And so I'm going to kind of do these in different grids. So I'm going to have, you know, a section in a grid here with garlic, another section for the leeks, then the other section for the onions and the shallots. And so I'm going to plant mine about that 8 to 10 inch mark spacing, and I'm going to plant them about 3 inches deep, 2 to 3 inches deep. One thing I like to do really with anything is, especially if I'm like trying to get a lot of different things in a space, I like to lay it all out and see where I'm at, and then really there's a lot of room where you can kind of condense that planting a bit, especially with varieties that you're pruning, you know, like a tomato. I don't ever follow the spacing on a seed packet because I hard prune, and so I know I can plant them like closer together and really max out that space because I'm gonna, you know, I have some pruning techniques. And with garlic, it's super easy. With onions, you can always kind of plant them, you know, closer together. The only thing to be mindful of is the bulb size. If you plant them so close, then they're not able to bulb up well. And so really what I'm going to do real quick is just go through and kind of lay out all the garlic that I have and see where I'm at, and then kind of mess around with some different spacing options. You guys can see here, I've got the grid. So I've got them about every 8 inches. And these actually covered quite a bit of this bed. So I have about half of the bed left, which tells me I can probably do 1/4 of this in shallots, 1/4 of this in onions, and I'll have to find another bed for the leeks. Alrighty, I got 2 other quick tips for you. You always want to make sure that you are planting the pointy side up. So down here is where it is going to grow roots. And then just keep that like papery casing on it. That just adds like a layer of protection for your garlic bulb. But now we get busy. I always like to make a fun little game of this and time myself and see how quickly I can plant garlic. So on your mark, get set, let's go. And just like that, we are done planting garlic. Now, I do totally recommend mulching garlic, especially if you don't have any sort of drip irrigation set in place and you're just relying on Mother Nature. Now, you could use straw. I absolutely despise using straw as a mulching option. I know a lot of people come at me for that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to forage my yard for leaves. I find that leaves are a great mulching option. They break down over time. They add all those brown components back into your soil, which are really important. And you're not having to worry about going through and, you know, once it rains, and especially when the springtime comes around, you're not spending all your time, you know, weeding all of the grass seed that's going to sprout from your straw, which is why I just really don't enjoy it. I find that I spend more time mulching the straw than what the purpose of the straw is doing. So if you have leaves, forage them. I have even gotten massive like white sacks full of leaves from friends before, and just used it to mulch all the garden beds. So go through, mulch it really, really well. That way it, you know, holds moisture in. I am going to lay drip tape down first. So I removed the drip when I flipped that bed, and broad forked it and everything like that. So now I'm going to go through, just lay my drip irrigation back down, turn it back on the timer, and then I'll be good to go. But thanks for hanging out with me in the garden today. Even though it is now the 1st of November, I mean, I'm in a tank top. I literally, it kind of smells like spring today, and I'm like, no. We just had this beautiful fall weather come back to me. But I've been looking through the garden, and my broccoli out here finally starts to have little broccoli heads, and the dahlias are still blooming. The green beans are coming on. I've got some volunteer zinnias sprouting behind me, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. Although I long for the winter break, I do feel like I needed this spring day to kind of have this one last great memory. So that is what my week looks like, is just massive overhaul, cleaning out the rest of those summer plants, and really just kind of like planting cover crops, getting everything squared away, because our first real legit frost is in 2 weeks, and I know there are some things I need to put in place before that happens. But thanks for hanging out with me today. If you haven't planted your garlic, don't worry, you're not late, especially depending on the zone that you're in. Just kind of a good rule that I remember is you need to try to have it planted about 2 weeks before your estimated first frost. And if you're one of those that, you know, you live in zone 9, then obviously you still have a lot of wiggle room there to play around with. But thanks for hanging out with me. I'll talk to you soon.